Sky Tourism. We've noticed that about 15 to 20% of our visitors are coming specifically to come see the night skies. And I think we're blessed by night skies. If you live in LA or someplace like that, you're not so blessed, and so they're coming out here to see the dark night skies, which is pretty cool. Lehman Caves, we're doing a big project at Lehman Caves right now, and so the cave tours have been closed for some of this winter. We're going to reopen them back March 1st. And actually that was the first phase of a Sniffle project, about $1.5 million project that redid the trail system, but also redesigned a new electrical and lighting system for the cave, but it didn't pay for it. So we're now going back for another Sniffle project. We haven't officially got the money, but we're going to get it. And that's an almost $6 million project that will replace the lighting and electrical system in the cave, which right now that system dates back to the 1970s. So more than likely what's going to happen is we're going to go to bid. Next winter will be okay, but then the following 2 winters, the cave will be shut down for 2 whole winters because it's going to be a big giant project. But in the long run, this will be great. And since we're short of time, I will just mention that we have loads of projects going on. There's been a lot of this Great American Outdoors Act, Inflation Reduction Act, and a lot of these things are pumping money into federal governments and state governments too for infrastructure. And so Great Basin has actually been out front on this stuff. And so, we're redoing Lower Lehman Campground, the parking lots. If you go up Wheeler Peak Drive, the parking lots up top, those are being redone. We just finished the Wheeler Peak Campground, it's gorgeous. Protecting wild caves in White Pine County, we're doing a vegetation mapping project. Strawberry Creek, which burned in 2016, there's a big project to restore and replant that area. And in fact, we're thinking of putting in for a new Sniffle Around 20 project that would rebuild the campground at Strawberry Creek. So a lot of this stuff is in the stuff that I passed around, but lots going on out in the park.
So,
yeah.
The quick comment I have is,
Yeah.
and I want to be real clear to this board, just as Mr. Howell said, man, the leadership that you, James, and Elizabeth, that you brought on so many diverse aspects and all the great things that are happening on Baker, it's a priority of my office and the county commission to promote and put those resources out there and support you as much as we can, because it's going to make a stronger community, and it's fantastic. That includes law enforcement support, search and rescue support. That includes this long list of all the infrastructure needs out there, from supporting the GIDM projects to the county facilities, to all the, there's going to be a growth for the future here. But the situation the county commission faces, and the public needs to understand this as well, is our revenue sources are somewhat stale. So we're always looking for developments within the county to support county revenues that we can put into the infrastructure, put into law enforcement. Because we know, and we all know this is a mining community, we know that we're not going to always have the mine revenue to support our operations. So when the time comes, down the road, it could be 10 years from now, I don't know, we need to find out and act today to develop and mine out other revenue sources. Okay? So it was a big surprise to me to see a letter last spring from the Park Service objecting and opposing, pretty much becoming a bedfellow with the railroad to oppose the R-Plus. Initial just planning.
You're talking about the pump storage?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So I want to know more about your role in that letter, or who from the park, because we're a great partner. The railroad's a great partner. The project you guys have going on there is amazing. But they're inconsistent right now, in that this county commission has prioritized that development and at least getting the studies done and getting them off the ground. And so to come up with opposition from the park, it was without hearing from the park directly, without the park coming to us or my office and saying, listen, we have some concerns with dark skies. We have some concerns with our stargazing activities we have out there, and what this might mean for that. And we really want to be a partner to be involved in that process. That was surprising and disappointing. Because we do want to support, and I want to provide this, I want to work on this list with Elizabeth over the next couple of years and get some of these things addressed. But this takes revenue. And so we have to be smart and work, as Richard was saying, as partners. And eliminate any kind of concerns that we might have with this development, because now is the time to get involved during the development process for special use permitting, what we're gonna require of that company if they do go forward.
Sure.
You know, because right now, we don't know if they're going forward, we hope they do, but we don't know. And so we want to be involved, and we want the park involved, and we want Baker involved. So I just want to make sure it's clear that we're communicating, you know, that was not frustrating, it's very surprising that we have now someone opposing the county's project essentially. And the railroad's gonna be up here in a little bit asking for us to support them. And so it's really interesting that they can oppose us and ask for our support. And that's, politics it's complicated. You
It is
know?
complicated.
It is complicated. And there are a lot of concerns that our community has over that project. And a lot of it's valid, and we need to address that. But we also have to seriously entertain it, so we can have economic viability in the future for our kids, for my kids, everyone's children here, and our grandkids. So anyway, I just wanted to put that out there, that please.
And just so you know, bureaucracies are complicated a little bit sometimes. So, there's 2 Park Service wings that have been commenting on this. And so I think the park is more tangentially involved, because we're involved with the railroad. But there's a different group that deals with, kind of larger power issues. And so a lot of the letter, that's where that letter came from, was from them.
Okay,
So,
good. Just stay in touch with us, because that was, the optics weren't great.
okay.
It was, we think of the park, we think of you guys.
Okay.
And if the park's opposing a project that's gonna help fund these projects in the future, you know, it's complicated. And so I think that discourse is really gonna be helpful in whether this project gets off the ground at all, you know.
Gotcha.
And be involved. And we have.
Well, and I think, I'm always open to conversation, so feel free to contact me for anything,
I know.
anytime, not only on
I
this,
know.
but other things.
And that's why I started by telling you how much we appreciate your
Mhm.
leadership, and we look forward to and I really wanna, we're doing budgets right now, and I have been approached a couple times about Baker's budget, so, it's on our mind about how we can address some of the things locally for that community. So,
And I think Baker's an interesting thing, Liz is separate from what she's doing, but I mean, for the park, Baker's our gateway community, although Ely is too, really. And so it's important for us that visitors have kind of the things that they need as they come to the park. And I think places to stay and good roads and all that stuff is really important.
those roads, I mean, that's what we're talking about, that infrastructure too, so. Great, well, appreciate it, James. Thank you.
Cool, any other questions?
I just a comment, I just to echo what Mike and what Richard said, as far as, we just need to find a balance, so that we still, even though we have some different opinions, that we can come up with some resolutions and come together in a more united front, I think is great. As far as what the park's doing, the numbers are fantastic. The community of Baker is just the most fun place to go. The business community down there, I think that is the most dynamic business community I've seen in a long time. We just enjoy it. We did a lot of Christmas shopping for our grandkids in your store, and because it's just got such a unique vibe. So we really want to encourage whatever we can to keep that building, because I see that is really a huge front for economic development for the community, for the county, is the Baker Main Street community, so.
Seems like it's going in a good way.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
so, all right. Anybody else? Our commissioners on the phone, do you have any questions or comments?
I have one. This is Commissioner Vogler. Beneficial use of water. Parks doesn't have any beneficial use. They're not an agricultural business. Should not be trying to inhibit the use of the water by the agricultural community as Baker. That's a no.
Okay, anything else?
Chairman?
Okay, Lori?
Yes. Yeah, I just wanted to thank James and Liz for making the trip to the meeting, something that I was unable to do, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, the roads are a little iffy, but it's fine.
Yes, and really, and just thanks to both of you for what you do, and Liz, I think that you are a dynamite gal. I sit on the Main Street board, and you're awesome. And James, you too.
She's better though, I agree.
Oh,
Hey, James, one more thing.
Yes, sir.
I just got I'm communicating with Jeremy Drew, our consultant.
Yes.
Is it your office locally that's involved with supporting the tribes movement for the,
For the monument.
for the monument designation, or is that another office?
So, you know, the way the federal government's organized, you know, we work for the executive branch, so my role is a non-political role. And so, like the creation of a new national monument, let's say, that's a political role. So for me, I'm not involved in it. You know, but certainly, like they have come and asked me questions, and I'm more than happy to give them information, and you folks too. And so, in that sense, you know, I'm happy to be. I'm trying to keep up on it.
We just CC'd you on our letter, on the commission's letter, and that's why we.
And I was on the meeting last night. I
Okay.
heard that. So.
Okay, good. And so, that's just like the other development is, these things are complicated, you know, and so we want to make sure we're communicating right people. We'd love to see a face that we can communicate with the park about that.
I mean, I think I'm the best one to do that,
Okay.
and I can, you know, you know, and I can help you understand kind of like national monuments, how they function and all that type of thing.
I think we'll be in touch so I can find out some more information.
Yeah, and actually, the other thing from the meeting last night was a fire management plan that we're working on, which I think you guys are gonna approve a letter. It's a comment letter for our new fire management plan. And like all like all agencies, I think fire now is something that we're trying to be a little more active and get in front of, especially with all the vegetation growth. We're getting these gigantic fires, which is not good for anybody, so.
Great. That's it.
Thank you.
We'll call you back.
I'm glad you were.
Anybody else? Karen, did you have anything? James, Elizabeth, we really appreciate you making the drive to be here with us today. And be careful going home.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for your
so
time.
much, and we'll be in touch for sure.
Great.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. All right, moving on to item C, 9:30 a.m. proposed ordinances. Number 1, discussion, public hearing for possible action. White Pine County Board of Commissioners will take public comment and consider approval of proposed ordinance 531, bill number 01.11.2023A to amend ordinance 43 as codified in the White Pine County Code Title 11, regulating vehicles and traffic, to now include a prohibition on the use of loud vehicle braking systems in designated areas of White Pine County. James Beecher, White Pine County District Attorney.
So this is just basically an ordinance prohibiting the use of Jake brakes in residential areas around the county. They are extremely loud. I've been in contact with the Department of Transportation. They have, they're in the process of, if this passes, putting up signs. So they're starting to have been cooperative about that. I did get some verification from, this is one of the requirements from NDOT, needed verification from both the local NHP and our sheriff's department that they would enforce these ordinances, and we did get that verification that they would. So if this passes, we will let NDOT know and we'll go forward with the signage. I don't know when exactly. You're excited to have them up, but it's state agency, so we don't have a clear understanding exactly when they intend on putting it up.
Okay.
But they have indicated that if this passes, they will move forward with that as planned.
Yeah, that's why I'm here today, just representing the community of Lund, you know, just to hopefully get this forward and get it passed.
I just need you to state your name in
Okay,
the
Don
record.
Granto. Yeah, this is the 3rd time I've been here, so, you know, you recognize me or not, so. I'm
You
sorry
bet.
about that. Yeah, that's why I'm here, just seeing what we can get done, get accomplished, and get Lund quieted down, and I'm sure the other communities too would appreciate it, so. Yeah, it is a nuisance, that's for sure, so. When it snows like it did last night, it got pretty quiet because everybody shut down, but about 8 o'clock it got noisy again, so it is a problem, it is an ongoing problem, so. Especially for the community, yeah, so.
Very good, we appreciate you being here, and as you know, government moves slow, the time it takes to
I
get
understand.
ordinances passed, and then once we get them passed, to get the signage up, get everything rolling, but it feels like we're in motion, so.
Good, good deal.
So, we appreciate you, thank
You
you.
bet, so when do we vote on this, when is that?
That'll be today,
Okay,
And then-
After the public hearing.
okay.
and then it takes effect in is it 14 days?
I'll have to double
I think it's
check.
14 days, and then we're,
It has to be published in the paper for 2 weeks, and then the next day, business day after the second publication, it will take effect.
it takes effect, okay,
Perfect.
very good.
Okay, thank you for your time.
You bet, thank you. Do we have any further public comment in this public hearing on this ordinance?
I'm on Zoom, and I'm just 100% behind what my husband just said. Would like to see it.
Oh, can
I'm
you stay?
Janelle Grant.
Okay,
Like
Janelle.
to see it now.
Very good, thank you. Any further comment? All right,
I'll make a motion to approve.
we have a motion by Richard to approve, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Janet, further discussion? Call for the question, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
And the ordinance passes unanimously.
Thank you
So-
so much.
Yeah, give us a couple weeks and we should start hearing it seeming quieter down there.
Great, I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're gonna move down to item 2, discussion public hearing for possible action. The White Pine County Board of Commissioners will take public comment and consider approval of proposed ordinance 532, bill number 01.11.2023B, repealing all of ordinance 502 as codified in Title II, Chapter 2.32 of the White Pine County Code, thereby dissolving the Regional Planning Commission. Michael Weeble, County Manager.
Okay, so this is basically the, something brought forward as we did in the first reading, to look at whether this layer of government is necessary or not. We've had it for about 3 years now, and there have been a number of complaints. The concerns that I have are the overtime that not only the county is paying, but that the administrator is bearing, being the clerk for this board, which is Jennifer Drew. There is just the kind of back and forth redundancy of, something passing or not passing, and then coming here to appeal, and then threaten litigation from certain officials, and then going back to the RPC, and then coming back here. And I just wanted to look at it, see if this was something that we wanted to continue with or not. We did receive a letter from the mayor last time this was on the agenda. Just for the record, I did reach out to the city's council about a year ago, talking about this issue in general and asking for any, strong opposition that would have informed, how we would proceed on this. I heard nothing, so I just assumed there was no real opposition from the city, or they didn't care one way or the other. But it does appear that there is some opposition. So this is not like something I'm strongly pushing. It's just something to look at, to see if we want to keep doing. The one thing I would ask is that we amend the motion, if it passes, to be effective March 16th, and that allows one more meeting so they can wind things down. That's allowed by the ordinance, as far as winding down the board's business. So if we give them some lead time, that would be helpful. But other than that, if anybody has any questions, I'm certainly free to answer.
Chairman Bidey,
Yes.
I think it's a good idea to, like I say, make the motion as such, because I did get some phone calls. We need to have something in place. I had inquiries in regards to the appeal process, wanting to know how we would be doing that. So I think that's a big part too, that we need to get into place so far as moving forward, which I think we should move forward on this. I've received also some complaints the way that things were working at the meetings. That said, the appeal process, people want to know how it will be handled. I know in the past, and I don't know if if any of you were on the board back then, but we did have like a 3-person board. I think one of them was a local contractor. Also, we had the building inspector, and I think that the DA was the 3rd person. Can't remember exactly, it's been a while. So, but I did just want to bring those concerns forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner Carson.
So in the event this is done away with, who's gonna be in charge of the rezoning or whatever the issue is that's brought forward?
The requests that come from within the county would come to the county commission. The requests that come within the city limits go to the city
Go to
council.
the city? So someone wants to rezone in the county or whatever, who on this board's gonna do that legwork? I'm assuming check into it and.
It would be an agenda item, just like it is with
It would
Jefferson.
just be a section on our standard agenda, so.
And we still have the building department, that we have a shared service group in the city, that would be a point of contact and point of information for the citizen who's looking to get some of that done. But as far as the questions that you might have about it, that would be pushed forward.
And at this point, I'd like to open this up where it is a public hearing, I would like to open it up for public comment.
Good morning, Carrie Pintar, 1417 Mill Street and 1049 South Bell Avenue to come. I am not in favor of this proposed action. I appeared before the RPC last June and took a beating. However, I believe that board serves a critical purpose for this community. Last week's meeting, there were more than 25 people in attendance. This room was full, as opposed to today being half empty. And I would say this to you because this meeting's at 9:30 in the morning and people can't just get up and leave their job to be down here to express their concerns. At 5:30 at night, when that meeting was conducted, we were afforded the opportunity to come and ask questions, listen. Those 6 people that represent this community on that board come from a various wide degree of backgrounds, and they have our best interests at heart. They let us ask questions, get to the bottom of it, and we're not having to miss work to be here. The RPC is an extra layer of attentiveness to the situation. The council and the commissioners, you guys have regular things to attend to. I'm with Commissioner Van Camp. Who's gonna follow that through? Who's gonna be the point of contact on this board? Are all 6 of you gonna do the job at hand to make sure that the public is being addressed and handled? I understand we have a critical need in White Pine County for housing. However, case in point, this board is in current contention with Mr. Summerall over the 4 lots you gave him. We've got 12 lots on 17th Street that JCR was given. They were supposed to develop 3 or 4 lots a year over the next 3 or 4 years. However, that hasn't happened. No one's on that company to get those done. 1 house has been built since that's been done. You've got incomplete infrastructure. We've got a pipe this big in the middle of the road. I get that we need housing. However, when the city turns down a request for a zoning change, does that then bump to the county commission for the appeal process? There's another opportunity in my eyes that you're gonna exercise not the best judgment with regard to some of these decisions. There's a 100 apartment complex being proposed out my new backyard. I no more want that than the man in the moon. And I don't think that this board should be the one to make that final decision, whether or not that's my new view when I build my house. I would implore the commission to not repeal that on behalf of the city. I think it's a detriment to the process the citizens are afforded when we can't come to these meetings in the middle of the day to express our concerns. And just as my own side note, this was a little punitive to me. I think the reason that the RPC's up to be abandoned is because they gave Mr. Chachis a seat on the board finally. So I would ask you to please take that into consideration and not move forward with this agenda item. Thank you.
Thank you. Further public comment?
Good morning, Commissioner. Buzz Rosevear, Basin Engineering. I've probably been in front of the RPC more than anybody would be my guess, without any facts behind that. But I would not be in support of disbanding that board. It's a nice central place for me take every map that I have, zoning changes, abandonments. It's a good central spot. I think everybody on the board is fairly knowledgeable. They ask intelligent questions, which I think is a good representation of the community. And everything that Carrie said, I think I echo all of that. I think it's a better time for most public to show up. It's a good time for me to show up. So I would not be in favor of disbanding that board. Thank you.
Thanks, Buzz. Anyone else?
Morning, Nathan Robertson, Mayor City of Ely.
Morning, Mr. Mayor.
Appreciate you guys taking the time to talk about this item like we've talked about, or like I talked about in my letter last time this was up. If there are issues that need to be addressed, and I don't dispute that there are, I think those should be addressed rather than disbanding this board. I'd like to echo all the reasons that have been previously stated, but just from the aspect of, we run a citizen government, the people who sit on that board are no less qualified or more qualified than those who sit on the council or county commission. Having an appeals process, I think, is an important pillar of a lot of our government institutions, and I think that's important to have. Who's to say that anyone in the future who sits on this board will be any more qualified than those who sit on that board currently, or on the city council, or on any board we have. It's good to have a backup against bad judgment and mistakes that we all make, to protect the citizens and their processes. I know as a property owner and as a business owner and as someone who works in construction and development, I appreciate having those there. And I would, like I said, if there are concerns or trainings or things that need to be kind of adjusted for that board to continue functioning in a better way, I would support that course of action rather than having the board just disbanded out of hand. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
BJ Albert, Basin Engineering. I'm not in support of this action. I've worked in this community for many, many years, and I watched this board when I first come back to the community. It was a regional planning commission, and it was dissolved, and the city had a planning commission, the county had a planning commission, and I've always felt that it operated best when it was a regional planning commission. As Buzz stated in here, it's kind of a one-place shop for any developer or anybody else that comes into town. They go and they work with the building department, the planning department, and then it comes back to the Bible board that it goes to. And, I do think that it is important, the appeal process where it's previously set up, and I understand the concerns of the extra manpower that it takes to staff these additional meetings or whatever. But as Commissioner Carson said, that, that maybe there's appeal process where the DA, another appeal board is set up behind here. So are you truly going to get out of any additional work that goes on there? Because if there's appeal process, you're going to start using those employees again to deal with the appeal process. And so I think the board is made up of competent people, and they do their best at it. And I think I know you do got a new building official in there that's kind of overseeing all the planning and stuff, and he's doing a great job getting his feet wet and up to speed. And so I don't support disbanding this board.
Thanks, Dick. Anyone else?
If I could just make a couple clarifying remarks, if there's no other public comment.
Could I add one last thing?
Mr. Carson, just give me 1 second. The mayor has one more thing to add, and then I'll turn it to you.
I forgot to mention, there's also
You bet.
a bill in front of the legislature that would allow us to move this board to a quarterly meeting at minimum instead of a monthly required meeting, which I think would be probably more than adequate in most cases. I mean, they have the option to have more meetings, but if that passes, that could also help with some of the staffing issues on this. And if we could get some support from the county on that bill as well, that would be a great support in this if the work continues. So, thank you.
You bet, thank you. Lori speak, and I'll go back to you. Lori, go ahead.
Yes, I just wanted to say that I've been a commissioner through both. When there was a planning commission, when it was dissolved, and then back to a planning commission. Personally, I interlocal agreement with the city in regards to the building inspector.